So, hi guys.
Hello.
So a lot of people have joined in us, here. Great. Hi guys, hope you all are having fun, enjoying the session. I am Nandini Singh, your host for the session. I welcome you all to the third and final day of WTF 20, world's biggest 3-day digital conference for artists. And as we speak, I'm pleased to announce that we have crossed more than 5,000 registrations for this conference. Thank you so much guys for your love. WTF is brought to you by PrintShop by Designhill, which is one of the fastest growing creative print-on-demand marketplace. And I would also like to thank our associating partners, Illustrators Artists Club, Graphic Designers Club, Pattern Designers Club, Typography Designers Club, Logo Designers Club, and our online learning partner, Milan Art Institute, USA. So today we have the formidable mother-daughter duo from the world of Ellie and Dimitra Milan. Whereas Ali is the founder of Milan Art Institute, online learning partner at WTF 20, and been a professional artist from 1996. So you guys can learn a lot. Dimitra is a prodigy to reckon as she turned pro at the age of 15 with her artwork amassing millions. She's an artist to look out for. So today, the duo is here to talk about how to choose the right media as a visual artist. And guys, we'll keep the session very, very interactive. You'll receive a lot of links and few polls to keep the session fun and engaging. But before we go ahead, let us know what WTF 20 and PrintShop is all about. So without further delay, let's start today's AMA session. Guys, you guys don't need any introduction, and you also took the last workshop with us. So people are really excited, and let's start with a little introduction because I think new people have also joined us for this session. So please give us a little brief about you and your work and your institute. It'll be great for people out there.
Sure. Ellie Milan here, and so I've been a professional artist for the last 25 years, selling my artwork to dealers, galleries, consultants, designers, and then about 10 years ago, I opened Milan Art Institute with a heart for artists, trying to teaching artists how to turn their passion for art into a profession. And so we developed a one-year program where anybody that is passionate and willing to work hard can take our course, and by the end of it, build a personal brand, a body of work, a portfolio, and be able to sell their work on a consistent basis. So I love what I do. I love working with artists. I love creating art. I love just the artistic lifestyle. And Dimitra, what about you?
So yeah, my name is Dimitra, and I've been a professional artist since I was 15, and I first really fell in love with art when my parents actually opened the art school and I started taking classes there. That's when I just really became immersed in it, and it really became a passion of mine. And then a couple years ago, since our school has been growing so much and now a lot of it's online, I'm also teaching, and I'm also really passionate about helping other artists and just really helping them like find their style and voice as an artist. And I'm so just in love with what we're doing with our online mastery program. And I'm also a co-owner of Milan Art Institute. Yeah.
That's great. I think we have coming up questions, So Alessandra is asking, Kimia is asking, what are the different types of canvases, and in your opinion, which is better?
Different types of canvases. Well, there's you kind of get what you pay for in the area of canvases. I found what sells best is a gallery wrapped canvas. So that canvas is going to be about this thick on the edges to even this thick. But those thin ones like this are harder to sell. Typically, people don't like frames. They like gallery wrapped, where you paint around the edges, and then you don't need to frame it. Also, as far as surfaces to paint on, a more expensive canvas and a thicker canvas is going to have a better gesso finished on it, and it'll be easier to work on than a cheaper canvas. I think linen, is really for very, very traditional, sort of slick, realistic oil painting. But just a standard, decent quality canvas, I think is pretty good.
Yeah, and as far as like brands, we really love using Friedrich's canvases. They're just
Tara
like,
Friedrichs,
yeah, really high quality, and every canvas we buy there, it's just really good.
That's too much about canvases. So I'm sure these guys are happy with your answers. So I have one question for you guys. Like, you have 25 years of experience, Ellie, and you have also got so much exposure, Dimitra. So, and also you guys have must have worked on so many projects. So what inspires you to embark upon a specific project when you start any specific project?
I think that usually what inspires me for the next project is what I've been previously working on. I think when you're in a habit of painting, one idea sort of brings in the next idea. And of course, sometimes a commission will inspire something new. People, out there, collectors will see something you've painted, and then it'll spark their ideas and say, oh, what if she painted my horse this way? And so then they'll commission you. And so sometimes it's driven by the market, but mostly I find that my ideas come from being, working. Inspiration finds you working. So anytime you just work, you can be inspired by the materials you're working with. You can be inspired by the imagery that you're doing or the way that you're doing it. And I think being in a creative community is also very inspiring. Artists should connect with other artists. And I know we're connected with a lot of artists, and Dimitra inspires me.
And you inspire me too. I'm sorry, my throat's a little dry.
That's so sweet. So we have one question with 4 upvotes. Abigail is asking, I have explored all forms of art but can't seem to settle for one medium. I really want to settle for a particular medium but just can't decide. Now I have an ongoing artist block. What advice would you give to someone who's a jack of all trades but master of none?
Well, I think that actually through like experimentation and really like trying a bunch of materials, it'll help you get out of your artist block, and you'll be inspired by something that you try. And so a lot of times, like, we tell artists to do this 100 painting challenge idea. And so they have to do 100 paintings in 3 days, and they're just little canvases or pieces of paper this big. and you just do each one, and you only spend 10 minutes on each one, no longer than 10 minutes. And you use whatever materials you have. And by doing this, like by the end of the 3 days, it's really challenging, but you'll find that like something that you are experimenting with will really speak to you, and you'll have like a breakthrough. And so anytime you're going through an artist block, that's like a really great thing to do.
Also, I just want to encourage you that if you, the idea of, well, a jack of all trades and not an expert of anything, I would say that, for me, I paint with inks. I paint with all types of inks, actually. I paint with pens, markers, drawing materials, charcoal, all is underpainting. I use spray paint a lot. I use acrylic painting. I use oil painting. I do collage. I don't do that on every piece all the time. I'm constantly changing it up, but yet there's a style that I have that transcends from painting to painting. So I don't know that you have to, everybody's different. Everybody's temperament and personality is different. My personality is someone, maybe like the person that asked the question, where I like to change things up. And I think if that's really you, don't change that. Don't feel like you have to narrow it to one medium. I think you can be a multimedia artist. Mm-hmm. Now, if you are, in music and poetry and writing and, graphic arts on the computer, and then, some of it's visual art, okay, maybe for a time you need to narrow it to one thing. But within, let's say, the realm of painting 2D art with actual materials, I don't think that you have to forego, water-based materials and stick with oil. I think you can mix them. I think you can work as a mixed media artist, and that might be what inspires you and keeps you going. And I would embrace that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
That's so true that you said, if you know so many things, just keep opening the horizons of your mind. And I'm sure Abigail and 16 others are got to know something. So I have one interesting question in the question section with 4 upvotes. Do you have a travel kit to do art on the go? If yes, what do you pack with you?
Yeah, we travel a lot, and we love to paint while traveling because it's just really inspiring. And just our travel kits are like pretty similar, but we like to use like gouache kits. And it's just because the color is really rich, like richer than watercolors. And they kind of look like oils a little bit. And you just mix them with water, so they're easy to travel with. We also use like pens, graphite, some markers. And then there's like all kinds of sketchbooks out there. And like some of my favorites are the sketchbooks that are like paper pads, and you can rip them out and it will be like a paper board. So as you're working, the paper is totally flat. And even when it gets wet, it won't crinkle. And then when you're done, you can like peel it off.
Yeah.
What about you?
Actually, we are, I think they're going to go on in the next week or two. We are actually going to sell a travel kit that we actually use, because what we do is we take artists and once a year we go to Greece and we do art classes in Greece. So we are about to put because we're coming into the travel season, well, hopefully this summer. And so we are going to, put a travel kit that we use for sale. But I think Dimitra's suggestions are great. Also, there's sort of kits that you can take, let's say, for like a day trip, or if you're going, you want to paint outdoors, you want to paint at the park, you want to sort of take your art on the go, not necessarily on the airplane, but just, out, away from your house or the studio. And I just recently bought an art box, and it's really great. All the oil paints stay contained in there, and it's sort of all inclusive. It's easy to carry, and I just go outside on my property and paint out there. So I really enjoy that. So there's a lot of great things. If you just look at plein air kits on Amazon, there's a lot of options.
Great. So guys, take a note and, follow them on Instagram for their upcoming travel kits. Okay, great. So we have another question. Do you plan a process before you start, and what is the process is like after you come up with the idea?
Yeah, we both like it's a combination of both things. Like we do have an idea and we do plan our paintings, but then also like during the process of painting, we're kind of letting the painting like be what it wants to be. And so we leave a lot of room for like abstract and just whatever happens spontaneously. But usually like I think you too, like we both have an image in our mind that we like want to paint. And so we start with that.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell artists all the time is the goal to get to, especially if you want to be a professional, if you really want to do this for a living, you just feel like this is what you're born to do. This is your destiny, to be an artist and to get your voice out there, let your voice be heard, and sell your work on a consistent basis. Then you have to paint a lot. You have to paint. The goal would be at least 40 hours a week, and to consistently week after week paint. And you may have to start at 10 hours a week consistently and then move it up to 20 hours a week consistently, and then get to 40. And when you're doing that, what's going to happen is you're going to become so fluent in your processes that it will become second nature to you. You won't even have to think about it. You're not going to really plan anything. It's just what you do. It just comes out of you. So most of the time, if you're having to really think about things, it's just because you haven't gotten to that point yet where this is your true vocation and career, where you're really consistently putting that time into. Almost everything is solved by one thing, and that is just time behind the paintbrush. You just have to put in the time. So consistently painting, just paint no matter what. Make a schedule in that time to paint, and show up to work and put the hours in. And you'll see very, very soon, you're going to become really comfortable. You're going to always know what to do. You're going to know when your paintings are done. You're going to know when to move on, when to shift things. You'll be able to, you'll just be fluent, just like learning a language.
So yeah, that's actually true. Consistency is the key, and you have to schedule things. So great. And you also have mentioned you'll be selling a lot of work when you keep practicing. So the Neha is asking us, can you explain what kind of clients we can target in this style? And how to target clients, even if we do art exhibitions, and so everything needs a plan, and how to approach even for the art exhibitions or for clients. So how one can do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the answer might surprise you. Rather than targeting clients, the best way to succeed is by building that personal brand. What's going to happen is you're going to endear a part of the market to yourself. You will draw to yourself. So rather than you watching where the market is and trying to adapt to the market, you should just be your authentic, true self, your genuine, true self. You should paint what your heart wants to paint. You should paint what is naturally you. And what will happen is if you do that consistently, it will become predictable. It will have depth to it, and people will be drawn to it. They're going to want to hear what you have to say, and they're going to follow you. And as you build followers, and as you build collectors, and as you build fans, then it doesn't matter where you go, what you do, and how you do it. They're going to want what you produce. So the most important key is to build a personal brand based on what is deep inside of you. What do you love? What are you passionate about? What makes you, cry and pound your fists on the table and that's really your story. It is your story. It is your personal story. It's your genuine, authentic self. People don't want fake, phony stuff. They want the real deal. They want your heart on the canvas. And that is what is going to draw people to you. And then that's what's going to motivate sales.
Great. Yeah, that's so true. And of course, you have to be yourself and not to think about making monetizing it on the first place. So yeah, we have another question. While you work in mixed media, what kind of varnish you use to protect your painting?
Oh, what kind of varnish?
Yeah.
Why we work in mixed media, I think we both really love.
While you mix and mix, what varnish do you use for mixed media? I think is the question.
Oh, okay. So I use like a gloss oil varnish because the last layer of our paintings are like oils. So it's just by like Winsor & Newton. That's the brand, and it dries pretty fast. You can like pour it on and then like brush it on, and that usually looks the best in my opinion. It's like really thick and glossy, and it dries like pretty quickly. If you put it in the sun, it dries in like 20 minutes. So that's my personal favorite.
Yeah, I think if you are finishing in water-based material, then just an acrylic gloss varnish. There's a brush-on or a spray, so either one. But you want an artist-grade varnish, and so they come matte, they come satin, and they come gloss. And we found that gloss brings out the color more, makes the color richer. It tends to be what the buyer is drawn to more. And I don't know why, but it just doesn't seem to go out of fashion. Like gloss finish is typically the standard. And then for oil, I personally like this one that's made by Eco House. They use orange peels as the solvent in it, so it's non-toxic, and you can varnish indoors without a mask, and then you don't have to worry about dust or debris drying in the varnish. So I think it's a personal choice, honestly. Like you use a different varnish than I use, and
Yeah, I just do it outside, but
the results are the same. They both look,
Yeah, I want to try that though. The Eco House.
Yeah, I just like it because you don't have to deal with the smell, and then you don't have to baby your painting.
Okay, cool. So too many options for people out there. So we have one more question. I'm sure that I don't think you guys have worked on a 9-to-5 job. Did you?
What's that?
9-to-5 job. Have you worked for a 9-to-5 job?
Not in a long time. I'm completely unemployable. Nobody would hire me for anything.
So we've got 8 upvotes on this question: how to move from a 9-to-5 job to become a full-time artist?
Okay,
That's a good
it's an
question.
excellent question. We love that question. So we actually did an entire podcast on this question.
Yeah.
I definitely will answer the question, but if you kind of want the longer version of it, we did a whole podcast devoted to that, which actually was generated by our audience. Our audience and followers asked that continually. So that's why we did a podcast on it. So it's a fantastic question. It's a question a lot of people have. And so the answer though, and at one point I did have a job. It was a long time ago, but what I had to do is you basically have to work 2 jobs simultaneously, and you have to be really wise in how you invest and how you spend money. And you have to basically, what I did is I just told myself, this is short term. I'm eventually going to ditch the job that I don't love, the job that's, soul sucking and is, my 9-to-5 that I wanted to get rid of. And I'm going to move into my destiny. I'm going to move into my career. So I just told myself I can do anything for a short period of time. And I painted all the time. Every waking moment I had, every moment I said no to vacations. I said no to going to the movies. I said no to anything extracurricular. And I just dug in, and I had a goal, and I wrote it down, and I wrote a power statement, and I read my power statement twice a day to motivate myself to be in it. And I basically used every resource I had and devoted it and threw my whole heart into the reality that I would be in my art career and I would get rid of my job. And for me, it took 30 days. But I was working as an artist. Before that, I worked, as a waitress, and, I worked at a bank for a while. And then I got a 9-to-5 job where I painted. And then I wanted to go freelance. I wanted to be out of that sort of it was a bad situation, and I wanted to get out of there and work for myself. And so for 30 days, not only did I paint 9-to-5, but then at night and on the weekends, I also painted to build my own portfolio that I could transition into. So it is totally doable. I think it's anybody can do it. You just have to work really hard, really hard. You might have to work, if you think about it, there's 168 hours in a week. And you could conceivably work 3 full-time jobs and still have time to eat and sleep. So really, that's what it comes down to, is you work 2 jobs at once, but it's just for a short period of time, and then you're free, and the payoff is huge. You know, you're set free. You got out of the matrix, and you're in your destiny. So it's worth it.
Yeah, and like everything, like it kind of starts with your mind. You can imagine that your plan B is actually your job that you're doing, and plan A is your passion. So you're thinking you're just doing it for a short time, but your main focus is your passion.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a great piece of advice. Like, it'll need a lot of dedication from artist side, and you have to slog your mind to work, and then it really pays off in the end. So yeah, that's great. And you also mentioned the portfolio. So are there any tips that you can suggest to the emerging artists to incorporate in their portfolios?
Maybe you can say the question again. Or
I think what they want to know is, like, what is our advice about a portfolio? What should a portfolio maybe look like the qualities of it?
Okay.
So I think that you want your body of work, your portfolio, to be consistent. You want it all to look like it was done by the same artist. You want the quality to be consistent. You don't want, like, if you have some pieces and if you look at it as a whole. Well, first, let's talk about numbers. I tell artists all the time, you're not in business unless you have at least 30 pieces. And don't get nervous and feel like nobody wants to buy your work until you have over 70 pieces. So 30 to 70 is sort of the sweet spot of a good inventory. If you only have 30 pieces and you say you have 2 shows and you get into a gallery, your entire inventory is wiped out. So you need a lot of pieces. And so that's good numbers. Then they need to be consistent. They need to be consistent in quality and style. They need to be diverse, not in style, but diverse in subject matter. We have a student who, like, she wanted to just, like, if you just want to paint portraits, close-up portraits, and that's all you want to do, and you have 70 pieces of close-up portraits, then your market is very narrow. The only people that are going to respond to that are people that want a close-up portrait. So it's good to diversify into other subject matter while still maintaining the style. So I think that you increase your chances for people to respond to your work if you have multiple subject matter and think in terms of series. So I think a good series is 3 to 12 pieces. So if you create in series, then let's say you have 12 landscapes, 12 animals, and 12 figurative pieces. You have variety, but you and think in terms of color, that your color should change. If every painting you ever do is pink and turquoise, unless somebody doesn't like pink and turquoise, I mean, you want to vary the color palettes also. So I think having diversity but cohesiveness is really important.
Yeah, it has to look like the same artist created those pieces. It's not like a bunch of different artists.
So yeah, diversity with your keeping your style in mind always.
Yeah.
So I have one. It's kind of funny also, the question Amrita is asking. So I think that happens to a lot of people. So focusing on details makes her lose her patience midway. So do you have any suggestions when you're, because watercolor painting and all these paintings take a lot of patience. You have to be really straight, like think about it, like you should not paint anywhere else. So she's asking, how should I get that patience to, in midway when I lose my patience while painting and detailing?
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's like a good question, and
Multiple pieces.
yes, there's a lot of different parts to that. But one thing is, well, if there's like a lot of different types of personalities, and some people really enjoy details and other people don't. So you have to figure out, like, with your personality and the way that you like to paint, your process has to match your personality. So if that person is just, they want to have a realistic painting and that's like their goal and they enjoy it mostly, but maybe their last details are difficult, I would say they just have to like get better at it, and then they'll start enjoying the details more. And the more they do it, the better and faster it'll be, and then they'll really love it. Or maybe the problem is like with the process itself, and maybe that's not a good fit for her, and she should be doing something more like freeing and like maybe more abstract or like fast. Like there's fast results, like the instant gratification. So there's like a lot of different pieces to it.
Yeah, I think another just easy tip is, I love what Dimitra said, but just an easy tip is to work on multiple pieces at one time. So a lot of artists get into a habit of just one piece at a time, and they kind of get bogged down in it. And if it's getting too labor intensive, or, okay, I got to paint the hands now, and that's boring, and it's, you know, dragging me down, and then you don't want to go and paint, and so you do something else. So if you work on 3 pieces at a time, maybe you spend some time in your day working on those tedious things that require a lot of patience. And when you wear out, do something fun and active, and that's, you know, more experimental to shake things up. And that works too if you get stuck on a piece. A lot of times you can get stuck on something and you won't know how to resolve it. So it's good to just, rather than stop painting altogether, is you just move on to another piece that you do know how to move forward in. Then by the time you've moved forward in that piece, you can go back to the one you were stuck on and you know how to solve it. So I think that artists should really never just paint on one piece at a time. You should always have at least 2, but I think 3 is better, pieces going at one time.
Also, this just reminded me, like, maybe some people think like when they're having to do details, maybe they're painting like 1 inch at a time, like finishing as they go. And that's like something that we just don't teach. Like we always say paint in layers, and then you can really enjoy, like, I don't know if she was watching our last webinar we just did, but we painted in layers. And so like at the end we did details, but it wasn't that hard because we had all that like fun stuff in between.
Yeah.
So the key is to having fun and keep switching so that you don't get exhausted while working on a same piece for a longer duration. So great. So as now we are coming to the end of the AMA, I have some questions from you guys. Like, you know, Ellie, you have been in this industry like for so long and you've got so much of experience. So what advice would you give to a young person following in your footsteps?
Well, I think one advice I would give is to surround yourself with really positive people that believe in you and your dream, and try to limit contact with people who discourage you and don't believe in you and don't believe in your dream. I would encourage you to connect with a community of artists that are all going somewhere, that are positive people, that are business minded. I would also encourage a young person to find a mentor. I think that mentorship is really important. I had mentors a little bit later in my life, but when I was younger, I really wanted them, and I looked and looked, and I really didn't have the opportunity, and I don't think that I knew enough to go find one. And it just so happened that one didn't come to me. So if I had known the value of mentorship sooner, I think I would have actively pursued and looked for somebody who is where I want to be, and see what they know, and you know, be teachable. I think that young people need to be teachable, and then work hard. I think hard work, being teachable, and being in a positive environment, you're unstoppable then. You're absolutely unstoppable. And I would just put your whole heart into your passion and your dreams, and any voice that's contrary to that, I wouldn't listen to it.
that's really a great advice, not just for artists, for being in any profession or as a human or you living on this earth. It's very important to be surrounded with positive people and believe in yourself and keep working towards your goal. And of course, it's so important to have a mentor in your life, because they kind of really shape your mind to achieve big. So I have last question for both of you. What do you guys enjoy being an artist? Because you are a pro, Ellie, and Dimitra, you have been you brought up in this kind of space. So what do you both enjoy being an artist?
Well, there's just so many reasons of why, like, I just love being an artist and why I think it's just the greatest, like, profession there is.
Yeah.
I just love, like, just the whole process of painting, just being in your own world and creating something from nothing. And I just love that whole experience. It's just very satisfying, and especially when you know what you're doing. When you get to that point where, like, your skills are there and you can paint anything you want, then it's like such a good feeling. There's so much freedom there.
Yeah.
And then also I really enjoy, like, just seeing how it affects other people. And when other people connect to it, it's just so much deeper. And, like, I know that art is, like, spiritual and, like, it connects people together. And so just both those aspects are my favorite thing.
I love what Dimitra said. I second everything she said. And then I would add to it for myself. I love the challenge that comes with being an artist. You're not, as an artist, you're not ever really allowed to stay the same, to stay stagnant. It's one of the only vocations I know where you have to evolve as a person, and every year look back and realize you're a better you. You're better than you were the year before. There's something about creating art that heals our dysfunction, and the more that we create, the more we're challenged to be better and evolve as a person. And if I look around at other professions, I see people that don't have those challenges, because I always tell artists, artists are the most courageous people on earth, because what you're doing is you're putting your guts and your heart on a platter for everyone to see and judge, and that is a great sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of love, really, to make this world better, to make the world more beautiful, to share. And a dentist doesn't do that, or an accountant doesn't really do that. And in order to do that, in order to be so giving and generous and vulnerable, you have to be evolving. You have to be constantly working on yourself and dealing with yourself. And it's a very personal process. And so I love that. I love the challenges that go with being an artist. And I've learned over the years to embrace them and realize that I am a work in progress, and I need to always remember that I haven't arrived and I have more to learn and I can always improve.
And that's why art is, like, so powerful, and artists change the world.
Yeah.
That's really great. So I think everybody loved it. I'm sorry, I just maximized my screen. Yeah. So yeah, and actually it was really a power packed session, and you guys have answered really well. And guys, unfortunately, we are not able to take up all of your questions, and we are reaching to the end of this magnificent session. But we did learn a lot from Ellie and Dimitra. Thank you so much for being a guest at WTF 20 and our online partner as well. So guys, stay tuned, because the next we have is Jury Talks with Shaza. To be a part of it, we strongly recommend that you should register on the link flashing on your screen. So thank you so much again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.